All right. And we are both live and recording. So, welcome. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tuesdays with Ro. Today, we have, as opposed to saying the master of disaster, we have the master of prevention of disasters. So, Arwed Lentz from YD Events. We're going to get to hear his story, how he started their business, and how they are helping love stories flourish in beautiful Riviera Maya wedding area, so in destination. Arwed, thanks a lot for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much, Rogelio, for the invitation. Pleasure to be here.
You know, I'm in Chicago today, and we talked through last month. There was Small Business Month. We talked about going local, shopping local, going with your local business. And I said, this time we're taking local to another level. When
Okay.
people they're planning their weddings, their destination events, and they go to you, we want to hear that story of how you started your business, because you are a local business. You're not a big conglomerate. You're not the big hotels. You're not the Rue. You are YD events. So we want to hear that story, and then how you help the local economy. So tell us a little bit about your business, and what is it that solutions that you provide.
Absolutely. The business started out back in 2007. After my wife is my business partner in the whole story of it, and it started out as like with 8 years of age from her. Actually, she started out growing up in Acapulco, Guerrero, Mexico. Her father had restaurants around there, and it was like the big touristy area in those days. So when she was 8 years old, she had a neighbor from her father's business who was Susana Palazuelos, and she's the one who started like these destination weddings, or let's say like the weddings on the beach in Acapulco in those days. She was like the founder of that idea, you could say. And when Yasmin was looking at that 8 years old, and she was like very sure that this is exactly what she wants to do for the rest of her life. So when she started out with that idea, it took her still until 2007 to actually get independent. So she worked in different hotels, and the last hotel chain she worked for was Banter, a hotel chain very much involved in food and beverage. Since Yasmin studied in Switzerland 2000, that was back in 1993 and around there. She was studying in Switzerland in Lyon, in one of the renowned or the best hotel and gastronomy schools in the world. And that's where all this family flair and all of that food and beverage back home comes in. Her mother likes to cook, her father has restaurants. So all of that grows inside of her, like the feeling of let's do something at some point. And I remember when back in 2007, she was like, I'm really in a good comfort zone right here. The hotel is giving me a nice view over the beach. I have my offices with that view. What else do I need? And I said, what else do you need? I mean, seriously? you gotta be independent. That's like a dream. Let's do this together. I mean, since I didn't know what I really want to do with my life, I just jumped on that wagon and I said, let's do this together. So I was more the one who was pushing her a little bit, but it is always and has always been her dream. So I jumped on that wagon. Yeah, that is quite a story.
That is phenomenal story, right? You're riding her coattails, but you're doing it together, which is good.
Yes, it's good and it's strange at the same time. Like working together with the one person you share a bed with, that can be something challenging sometimes, but it has been a very good ride and I enjoyed it a lot. And 17 years later, looking at this whole thing with what we have done in the last 17 years, I think there's like an after and before. When I started in June 2022, signing up for the action coaching, like the coaching for companies or businesses. One of the best firms in the world, actually, as well as BNI, for the networking. This is like the one for the coaching. And I started doing that, and it completely changed me. The fantastic thing of changing yourself first and understanding what is next, it gave me the opportunity to really understand and realize where we're going where we're going to go in the future. At the same time, the AI is coming to start, so every industry is now in a certain revolution through that AI technology. So I'm sure that the destination wedding is going to be the same thing with AI. Is going to be a big game changer. So one important thing for me and for why the events was always to figure out that culture of the company, where we are going to go with that. So many years I was thinking about, so okay, we're doing business, we're making money, we're giving people solutions for whatever their dreams are and their ideas are. But there was something missing, like a culture in the business, So I'm right now in the phase of figuring out what is that culture.
Okay.
I could tell you what I have in mind, which might be not getting to reality. So if you want to hear it, I can tell.
Yeah, we're gonna go to that. We want to hear that side of it. But before we go there, you mentioned you did mention a couple of things that as we talk to business owners, as I've dealt with business owners in the past, they talk about the challenges, and they look at the challenges typically before starting a business and how they're going to overcome and how they plan for it. But you've been 17 years in the business. Share with us some of your toughest challenges that you've overcome and how you went about it.
Yeah, toughest challenges. I think we had this luck through the fact that Yasmin worked in that hotel for 4 years, and she was a really good employee. So she did her 14 hours a day, and what is totally normal in the hotel industry. And therefore, we got a connection from the owner of the Banter resorts towards an ex-president of Mexico, and his son got married in 2008. If I'm not mistaken, it was the 2nd of August 2008. And when we did that wedding, the biggest challenge there was that in the end, I mean, it's an ex-president. There is a certain security level going on with the how you call them again? Well, the security detail exactly. So that was challenging in itself, because obviously privacy, like you had to give up all your phones and everything you could do some harm with, whatever. So they had their privacy. And as well, the most challenging part, I think, was that there was also a guest invited. It was a very, really important guest. It was the daughter of President Bush, still being in power in those days in 2008. And so that was a huge challenge because of the logistics, whatever the security, I forgot the name. What is the name of the security tail of a president in the United States?
That's Secret Service.
Yeah, exactly. Secret Service. So there was quite a bunch. I don't know how many. Most of them, they were always disguised in private clothings and start working around in Tulum. And so that was quite challenging and interesting at the same time. So this was starting with the right foot in the very beginning, in the early stages of the company. Then throughout being in that niche, you have a few years until this well dries out, because everybody's not anymore in the age of getting married. They just grow up and then they're already married, and then there's nobody else in the family anymore or in the friend circle, and that well dried out a little bit. And then we started getting into this middle high end class people, both working, a lot of challenges in the sense, I mean, challenges, honestly, I have not felt challenges so much. I would say the challenges started when I got 2 years back into the coaching, and I really realized that the company is not going to grow more if I'm not starting to grow first. So the biggest challenge was to understand, who am I? What do I do wrong? Or what I do right? To just be more conscious about what I'm doing here. I mean, I have a business, okay? Business owners is one thing. My goal, where I want to go, is to be not a business owner, be more like what's the word for it again in English? I forgot it. In Spanish, it would be empresario.
Well, it would be a CEO or entrepreneur.
Right, like being not
or an
directly
exec
involved in your business and looking it from the outside in,
and
you don't
an
have to move anything
more of
exactly.
an executive being out there and
Right,
managing side of it. Well, you
and
bring
that
up,
this is yeah. Yes, go
yeah,
ahead, please.
and you bring up, I mean, some good points right there because I also see some business owners that they establish their business and they're good with what they have. They keep on going, and they got business coming in, that's good. They got revenue sales coming in, that's good. They get a little hiccup, they divert, but they divert to another area without thinking
Hmm.
about it. Okay, let's look at this one because now we can go here. And that's kind of what you mentioned, that you went where the well dried up and then you switched it over a bit.
Yeah,
But now you're at a point where you're looking and say you want to grow intentionally. You want to know why you're growing and where you're growing, so that
exactly.
that planning really comes into play, and you got to have that outside view, looking at it and say, okay, if I'm on the outside, what is going on?
Yeah.
What are the operations, but what can I guide the company through that will make it better? So that's
I
good.
think people have to understand that when you start out in 2007 in an area like Quintana Roo, being a state what is very young, just exists a little bit more than I get, a little bit more than 55 years. Cancun, the municipal area is 55 years roughly old. Playa del Carmen is like 30 years old. So you
Hmm.
have all of this development still going on. When we started out, there was basically no vendors to be found you could actually trust. So you know, when you're somebody who have lived in Mexico and understand how life works around here, you get very easily afraid of that somebody's not showing up or showing up way too late. You
Hmm.
know. So when we had that these fears, and it turned out to be not at all an issue.
Okay.
Surprisingly, not at all. I think maybe it's the concept of how you shout into the forest, the echo will come back to you. I don't
Hmm.
know. The fact is, we never had any big issues with that. Um, I guess one of the challenges was that obviously in the beginning, 2007, the idea was doing only wedding planning, like destination wedding planning. That was the beginning. A computer, Starbucks as an office, and that's basically is the beginning of it, you know. And and then you start working on that. My idea was like, let's get some offices, how we can pay this. So we got some houses, like therefore like living. Usually we turn them into an office. What is very common in Mexico to be doing, since it is the cheapest way of getting an office, you know.
Hmm.
And then 2009, we started with the catering part, what turned out to be basically 80% nowadays of the business.
Okay.
So we're doing more catering than actually planning right now, and we're working very hard on getting back on that track with the wedding planning, and
Okay.
because there's the strategy coming in I mentioned earlier. So the challenges are right now more than in the beginning, and I'm sure there were challenges in the beginning as well, but you just forget about it, you block it out, or you just go forward,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, no, I understand. So, and those are nice challenges or good challenges that you overcome. There's a more recent challenge that I think hit everybody, right? COVID. How did that impact you?
Yeah,
What did that do to you guys?
that's true. Gee, the fact is that somehow I already forgot about it, that it happened.
That's a
Yeah.
good thing, right? It's like over.
Yes, absolutely. I think in this case, ignoring it is maybe not the worst, you know. Yes, that was a challenge. Obviously, I mean, we had still staff on payroll. Um, um, I could say I'm proud to say that I did actually, the company paid actually 3 months straight 100% of salary, and then 60% from the, I think, the fourth to the 6th month, and then we basically had no money anymore.
Mhm.
So that's how we did it. We lived out of certain. I mean, food was around since we are a caterer. Food was around enough to actually eat it all, almost
Mhm.
like what we had on storage. So that was not an issue. We were not going to die because of hunger. That's for sure. But it was a challenge, obviously, and I wanted to be as more social as possible in regard to our employees and collaborators and stuff. And yeah, it was I think it was something really
Mhm.
beneficiary to us. we started stopping and really like for the first time after so many years going on, because basically in the industry, since the industry was growing so much, we never had a commercial area. We never had to sell anything. Everything was just like coming to you and you were trying to get the operations done, you know? That changed obviously in the last years, especially with COVID starting. Everything changed. Examples.
Going from a reactive sales approach to now be more of a proactive approach, which leads us to the fact that you're looking at the culture of your organization, of your business. Where do you want to go? What it should be like. So, tell us a little bit about what distinguishes YD events from the competition, and how is it that you're looking to grow with, and I would imagine with other markets, bringing people to the area. How is that? What's that approach going to be like?
Okay, let me see. What can I tell you about that? Can you repeat the first part of the question?
With the culture, now that you're looking at, you went through the challenges and the successes, and now you're going through a new plan phase of being proactive.
Hello. Okay, we were cut off completely. I didn't hear anything.
All right. Tell me what differentiates you from the competition, and then also how are you looking to attract business from other markets, like let's say from the U.S. to bring them to the Riviera Maya, or from Canada to come down there.
Look, the most important part for me in the beginning was I always knew that distinguishing yourself from the competition starts with you and how you shout into the forest. So when we started we did everything in the beginning. For example, everybody was going basically on a high percentage on the market for North America, obviously, but again, North America, English speaking, like Americans, Canadians, not so much Mexicans. So we started out to focus on the Mexican market in the very beginning. So 90% out of 9 out of 10 were always a Mexicans getting married, sometimes, and most of it with a foreigner. So there was always a Mexican or Latin American descendant with a American, Canadian, European, whatsoever mix. Because we also had, like, the funny thing is when you write something down in your web page, actually people responding to it. If you don't believe it, you can actually, when you look into it, we wrote our story in there, how we met and everything. And suddenly we had like 9 out of 10 always people where one was Mexican or Latin and the other one was something else, and that's how we actually had this distinguished niche. And then the personalization of the service. So it got so bad in a good sense that we personalized everything so much that we were getting in trouble with balance sheets. It was too many hours invested in it. Yasmin is a very service-oriented person, so numbers is not her thing. So when she looked at this as a service standpoint, then everything is service, and I was just like on the background, I was like, these are too many hours you're investing. This is not a business anymore. It is, and that distinguished us in the very beginning. And then nowadays the distinguish is definitely that we have a very good presence in the area. Maybe it also helped. I mean, you got to say, when we started out in 2007, Yasmin had some issues with things like wedding forums. A lot of people were complaining about certain realities in Mexico, and we were like, oh, we have to go against that negative opinion of some people. So we have to do something. That's when she came up with the idea of creating maybe an association. So when she came around with that idea, I was like, oh, that's a good opportunity for me to give something back to the new country I live in, and so on and so on. And then I started, okay, I'm going to do this. I founded then back in 2009, what in Spanish is Asociación de Coordinadores Independientes de Bodas y Eventos Profesionales. So it's ACIBEP. ACIBEP is the association. I founded in 2009. Together with Yasmin, but basically I'm still nowadays the founding president, obviously, and the legal representative of that association. So that is something what helped us in the image as well as a company, being part of the people that are really interested in the industry and creating an association because of that. Making sure that there's enough training going on and so on. We're trying to counteract before things are going down south. Because in the end, things are always going to go south. If you leave things to the majority, things are going south because people are people, and people will be always doing something wrong or right at the same time.
The best way to plan for something is to be prepared for the best and the worst case scenarios, and knowing how to react to it properly and in a timely basis. So that's good to hear. So tell me a little bit, and you mentioned about your service and your level of detail and the level that you and your wife, that Desmond has towards detail. If anybody hasn't checked out their website, make sure you do. We'll post it in the comments. It's a beautiful website. It's got some great videos there as well. But tell us, what is it that you're looking to do in this next year and a half? Because we're halfway through 2024. So what's your 18-month plan?
For me, the future of YD Events is going to be very much involved with technologies, to figure out, to be definitely one of the companies, of the first companies in the world, maybe, to actually figure out a way how to use artificial intelligence in our industry. That is the main focus. And then there's a humanitarian reason behind it as well. I would love to have like a culture in YD Events where we are helping societies. I mean, most people, I think, don't know or don't understand the big part of creating a society, a good society in a country, comes through the businesses they have, the companies they create in their society. And obviously there's improvement to be done in Mexico, without going into details, but people have been living here or have grown up here and then moved to the United States, what is a very common factor, as yourself here, for example, and then I believe that there is the secret of the culture of our company, where we can actually bring in like a psychology factor, a training factor, a preparation factor of this is your life together as a couple. And counteracting on a little bit the fact that we have more divorces than marriages, almost, if that wouldn't be completely against logic, you got to get married first to be divorced, but there's, what I mean? The thing is that people are just need a little bit more help. And I think a company cannot only do destination wedding, can also help into this for the society to create a better base of living together as a couple. So I'm trying to figure out a way how to involve that into the service of wedding planning itself. The whole phase is months of preparation. So this gives the platform then a very good platform to be able to give also parts of the service into psychologists, maybe talking about semiology is another factor, what I found very interesting. If you want to look it up, I hope in English it's called semiology. In Spanish it's semiología. So there's certain ways how to prepare these young couples better for life, I think. And there's an opportunity for wedding planners to do so and be part of it. That is what I was,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree with you there. And of course, there's in the religious weddings where they do it, they do the planning ahead of time, the meetings ahead of time, and sometimes with destination weddings they forget about that part. So that may be an additional service there that can be done, right? A nice
absolutely
get together beforehand and make sure that
and be contributing to society in the sense of that. I mean, every day we are more and more and more, and society is getting tighter and tighter. There's going to be more friction. There's going to be many things. And I think that as a community in every areas, in every country, there is something to be improved, and as a company, I think this is important for the people working with us, for the people as clients passing through that experience. I think that would give a certain factor of cultural company behavior.
No, great story, Arwed. Now, for our listeners out there, and for those that are thinking of getting married and possibly doing it as a destination wedding,
Yeah.
think of some ideas, some things that they should consider beforehand. What should be like their top three things when they're doing a destination wedding that should work on?
Absolutely. I mean, usually the time around when they get their ring, when they get engaged, that's when usually things are falling into place, and when people start reacting on what just happened. So when they do that, I would suggest highly, and that's not because that's the service I'm offering. That's the same standard everybody is saying, but it's a reality. If you want to have a good experience, you should ask yourself, are you going to be able to do this by yourself? Are you really going to want to put in the time? If you're somebody who's working and you are in the normal, typically stressed like everybody else, then usually you don't find the time for doing so. So that's why the first thing you always need to figure out, if you do a destination wedding, where I'm going to do this? This is number one question. Where I'm going to do this? I'm living, let's say, Chicago, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to get married here, or I'm going to go somewhere else. That's for everybody who doesn't know. The difference between is 100 kilometers, whatever that would be in miles. I guess around 60 something, 70 miles. I haven't. Yeah. So the distance has to be 100 kilometers away from where you live. That is like the standard rule of, that's called a destination wedding, when you've traveled 100 kilometers far away. Now, you can do this around the next corner, the 100 kilometers, or you fly in an airplane. So the number one is you got to figure out where you're going to do this. Once you figure it out, for example, let's say, for heaven's sake, it's Quintana Roo, Mexico. They decided on that. Well, the next step would be, obviously, nowadays, everybody's just going to go in using this one here into the internet and starts just searching around. I would always suggest that you find first a wedding planner to make sure that somebody locally. I'm not really a fan of people from other destinations coming here, because in the end, if they've done it from the very beginning and for many times, they have a learning curve to go through, and usually they should, in my opinion, if they're going to do this, team up with somebody locally in the beginning. Don't try it by yourself. No issue that they come down here. I think it's open for everybody, but team up with somebody, and especially find yourself a very good pool for vendors for those that are in the business itself. So for the couple, I would recommend always first the destination and then the wedding planner who you work with. Okay. Definitely. You could go down the road, and because of this one here, you can go down the road and find locations by yourself, just through Google Maps if you wanted to. That's okay. You can do that. Some of these private locations or resorts, they will offer certain amenities in-house to do so, but just make sure that you understand that the wedding planner you're having is somebody you may click with. You got to stick around with that person for a few months. So it's a very good idea to make sure that you like each other.
That's a good one. They're your business partner going into the wedding. So
yeah. So that would be my recommendation for those they're starting out to do that.
Okay,
always.
Very good. And then
wedding planner first, then location. Always, because there's some locations, they have certain policies, and a good wedding planner should know all these policies to make sure that whatever you have told him in the first meeting, what can usually take at least 30 minutes, then you figure out what they're looking for, what their likes and needs are, and then you can really base that on that and not on the main idea on how to make money with them, All
right. So pick the destination, get the wedding planner, then you figure out the location, and based on your wants and needs, and that wedding planner that event planner should have a good great listening skills to understand what you're wanting to do out of it.
Like we say in BNI always, and I'm always like to repeat it, because you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
That's right.
So it is always better to listen more in that case. Another point I want to point out, for me, there has always been like 3 different kind of constellations of destination weddings. The number one for me is typically the one who started everything out, like go to a resort and do everything inside of the resort, meaning ceremony, reception, whatsoever, activities before the day of the wedding, activities after the day of the wedding, and so on. This is a typically standard hotel location destination wedding. This is constellation number one. Constellation number two would be doing everything not in a hotel, everything in a private or semi-private location. Now, the third constellation would be exactly a mixture of both. Because in the end, I mean, guests invited have to have a head in a bed somewhere. They have to sleep somewhere, you know? So couples might or might not be interested for whatever reason. Mostly it's because of how I'm going to figure out what does the location look like. And if I have the opportunity to bring my guests into that hotel, is there any benefits for me as a couple? You know, one benefit is definitely getting a location where I can do my event in the hotel. So you probably don't have to pay an extra fee for renting something. If you do that in a private location, there's no other way, you got to rent it. You know? So it's a budget thing, you know, how do I allocate certain amounts to which area? And this is where, like, something we developed through these 17 years, and the idea of it has to be balanced. It has to be completely balanced. It makes no sense if you allocate a lot of money into one area only, and then let's say you have orchids, and then later on your plate you have chicken, you know, or worse, let's say about the drinks, because everybody wants to have alcohol at the wedding, that's for sure. They're going to be like, oh, let's have one of the cheapest tequilas or have one of the most expensive tequilas. So having like a balance all over the event is like key for us, because that makes an experience, a nice experience for the couple, definitely, and a very nice experience as well for the guests invited. I mean, don't forget, they're spending quite a lot of money to be with you at that day. If you go on a destination wedding, they're investing quite a lot of money. Huh? So why not the couple gets a little bit benefits out of it and make this whole thing happen? So let's figure out together a constellation of solutions. That is what we do.
Yeah, well, that's definitely great ideas. And, you know, and we talked about, you mentioned Quintana Roo, and that's the area that you're located. Is there any time frame that, you know, weather-wise, that it should be, that brings a little bit of risk, that if they're going to think about it, to plan that?
Weather is something where the creation comes in, and I'm stepping back. There's not much I can do. We can do, nobody can do. But yes, there was in the beginning, when we started in 2007, there was like more clear how the weather is going to behave. The reality, I don't know if it's a sad reality or a good reality, is that weather has changed quite a lot, and it's more unpredictable than ever before. That is not really a good speech for salespeople. But the reality is, yes, there has been changes, and the Caribbean weather has always been very local, meaning there's maybe one cloud and it's going to rain there. There's in a 1 kilometer radius, there is
nothing
rain
there.
And then you drive out of that radius, and then there's sunshine and heat and the humidity and everything. So it can rain. And we say always rain, since we are in the Mayan culture area where they were located, rain is a blessing in the Mayan culture. But I think for most ladies nowadays, when getting married, a rain is not really a blessing. They don't look at it as a blessing. And we have had clients, they looked at it as a blessing, because we obviously guide them through this whole process of as well understanding when things are like they are, and let's do the best with it. You know, there's not much I can do. I'm not the weatherman. I'm not God. I can't fix the weather. You know, so what I can do for you is make you understand that attitude is everything.
Yep. No, that is true. Well, the great thing, and I'm sure is you handle it, is that you do work with them, and you walk through it and say, okay, this is in the event this happens, we have a backup plan. So this is always great to have it. So, well,
obviously it would be good to have a backup plan. Moving forward, there's not always a backup plan possible, and most of the time it's because of the budget. You know.
So there's some things to consider there for the budget. Make sure you have enough to go around.
Absolutely. For example, details like this, when you're in the very beginning of the phase, you can tell them, if you're going already into a private location, why don't rent a a tent right from the
Mhm.
get-go. The tent gives you a certain feeling of that you're inside of a home. Then you can decorate the sky, the ceiling. So you can do many things with that tent. So the tent is, it doesn't matter if it's going to rain. It's going to be a structure also for whatever decoration you want to put there.
Mhm.
So there's certain ways of convincing people and make them understand from our point of view with all of that vast experience. Mine is only 17 years. My wife, she's doing that for 35 years now, a little bit more. So I'm sure that there's something she can come up with. Yeah.
Well, definitely the experience does speak volumes of what you're able to do.
I
And
agree. Yeah.
and definitely we really appreciate one, we appreciate your time to talk to us through this and your story. We're looking forward to like I said, we'll put the website on the on our link so you can
Yeah.
visit and check out the information. But Arwed is available, so if anybody is thinking of getting married, or if you
Absolutely.
have your wedding planner, if you don't, I'm sure he can help you and connect you with one and work with one as well. So
Well, if you don't mind, I don't know if I can give you my Calendly link, and people can just sign up right there from wherever, from that Calendly link, if they want to have an how do you call that again, like a free
that's
consulting meeting. I'm giving 30-minute free consulting meetings to everybody who is interested. Of course, it would be great that you're up. If you already made up your mind that you're going to get married, that would be great.
That'll be great. Yeah, send me your Calendly link. We'll put it in the
Yeah,
post with the video. And yeah, everybody, if you're interested, schedule time to be with Jasmine and with Arwin and have a consultation about your event and get that planning ready. So with that, we really appreciate, and just hit stop.